Hello, supporters of Minneapolis Public Schools. My name is Heather Anderson. Here's what happened at the February 13th board meeting. The first thing that I want to make sure it's really important that folks know is that there was a large action by the Minneapolis Federation of Teachers that was taking place during and before this board meeting, in which educators were asking for raises. They had a lot of public comment around that topic, and they had a protest and a rally before and during the meeting. On that note, there will be an update on that, I believe, this week during contract negotiations. So we'll stay tuned and let you know what happens with that desire for them to have more pay. Also important to note for this board meeting, our school district welcomed Dr. Lisa Sales Adams, who spent a lot of time really going over step by step of her entry plan, her 100-day entry plan into this district. And she's coming in at quite a time. She's coming in right when we're getting ready to send budgets out to principals, when we're having budget cuts that we haven't seen before in a long time in our city, maybe ever. And she really talked about how she is a data-driven decision maker, and she's really going to value community engagement. So you'll see a clip from her talking about that, talking about how she's going to spend her first 100 days, talking about how she uses data to make decisions, and talking about how she wants to engage with the community. We then heard from Senior Officer Giap, who gave us an update on the budget, talking at length about how we will have to be thinking long and hard about this $90 million that we need to cut, and how their department is in the process of cutting that now. And you'll see a clip about that. And then we heard an update. There is a policy committee in Minneapolis Public Schools. So if you kind of think about our school board as 9 people, then maybe 3 people or 3 board members make up different committees so that they can continue to move the work forward in different areas. So there might be finance or policy, community safety. The policy committee is getting ready to write and review and send forward a policy on gender inclusion for our district. And you'll hear Director Norville talk about that in our review. And then Director Emmerich talked about something that I'm not sure is very well known, but in our schools, a prone hold procedure is something that last year our legislature did away with, so that you cannot hold a child prone to the ground anymore. You can't do it in police departments. And there are institutions that do not allow it, but there were up until last year, there were ways in which students could be held prone in school. There is some desire to bring this legislation back to allow prone holds to come back to our districts in Minnesota. And so Director Emmerich gave us an update on some of the work that is happening around that. That's what was happening on the February 13th board meeting. It was a very busy meeting, lots of public comment. I encourage you to check out the clip so that you can feel on top of what happened. Thanks for watching.
So listening during public comment today, one thing that you will note during public comment, I will be looking down and I'll be writing. I take notes. I listen, and I want to make sure that I bring that information back to my team. During the learning phase, it'll allow myself and my team to take a deeper look, at the infrastructure of each department. That includes a review of all current policies, operating procedures, department protocols, oversight, and school-based systems and structures. As we get into the slides, you will notice that the learning phase in each goal area is a little longer than the other areas.
So the 90 million does not include any increase that may be coming from any negotiation or mediation. Apart from that, I would then say that we're looking to making the cuts that are necessary at central office, but you all know that 83% or so of our budget is invested in salaries and fringes, which means that if we are to cover a gap of 90 plus, or 90 plus, it has to be in terms of eliminating positions. That is something that is hard for me to say, because the last thing I know we all want is to negatively impact anybody's livelihood. So it is not something that we take lightly. It is a very serious matter. And if we're not sleeping at night, that right there is the reason. And so I want you to understand that as we say that everything is on the table, we mean that we would be making the necessary reductions at central office, but schools will be impacted too, because it's a system. And I have to say that there was a time that we did, for the sake of cutting at Davis, did it so severely that it was impossible for us to function. We missed reports that either went late or were never submitted. And last year, what we've seen with payroll, I think, made the round of the state. I don't know that there is anyone who hasn't heard about the payroll issues that we had at Minneapolis Public Schools. I'm glad to say that those issues are behind us right now, because we've done what needed to be done to making sure that we have the staff, the talented and qualified staff to do that. And so far, so good. And we hope that that continues.
In our addition to regular policy reviews, last month, the policy committee discussed options for a gender inclusion policy and began a policy audit review with the Minnesota School Boards Association. That concludes the policy committee report. Thank you, Chair Beachy.
Thanks, Chair Beachy. I'll be brief. We kicked off our new legislative session in Minnesota this week, yesterday, and so I was down testifying to the Ed Committee, and so I just wanted to put something on the radar of folks. Last year, our legislature banned the use of prone restraint and chokeholds for students in our schools. So this is not all restraints or restrictive procedures. This is just a specific type of procedure that has been found to cause loss of life, in that it can be a compressive, restrictive procedure and restrict the airways. It's cannot be used in prisons in Minnesota. It cannot be used for intensive disability services in Minnesota. It cannot be used by teachers. And last year, we made it so that it cannot happen to our students in schools, thankfully. And there is now proposed legislation to walk that back with a carve-out for SROs and law enforcement. And I'm only speaking for myself, but I do not believe that we should be subjecting our students in our schools to life-threatening restrictive procedures. We have many, many other options, even in unsafe situations. And so I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that our students are in danger right now of not being recognized as being protected from this procedure. So thank you.